Page 13, Rock Along. Now, I don't want to repeat all that junk I said in the previous video. You can go watch that video over and over and over if you need to until it kind of gets burned into your brain. But here, let's talk about some things that I didn't cover in the previous video. You already know about the clef signs. The treble clef is in that top staff there, and it's that curly-cuey thingy, whatever. And the bass clef is in the bottom staff, and it's that weird looking thing with the two dots. That's a bass clef. Don't get the idea that the treble clef always has to be in the top and the bass clef always have to be in the bottom. That's not correct. There's no rule. It can be either way, and they can change. Things are going to get interesting if they aren't already. Just stick around. But that's where it is so far. And you already know about the notes, and hopefully you know the names of the notes. In addition to counting it as you play it, you can also try saying the names of the notes. After you know the rhythm, or even before. See, when I start a new piece of music, a lot of times I don't bother with the rhythm or the counting or any of that. I'm focusing on the notes. It's like here at the beginning. It starts on that middle C again, here with the thumb, the first finger, hands in this position, and so I'm just thinking about the notes. So the first note is the middle C, and then the next note is another middle C, and then the next note, that bottom line, well that's an E, so that's here, and then the next note is a G, because that's the line, the next to the bottom line is a G, here. And I'm just focusing on the notes. Then once I kind of got the notes and which fingers I'm using, then I can go back and add the counting and try and how long do I hold the notes down. That's the way I approach it. You will develop your own system and your own method of approaching music, but I'll give you ideas as we go through it. I didn't explain about the rests. The rests. In the bottom staff there, in the first line, the notes are all in the top staff. That staff is that group of 5 lines. That's called a staff. Well, in the bottom staff, it just has those little boxes. There's no notes. And that box they're showing is called a whole rest. Now, for every note, there's a corresponding rest. A note means you play it, you're going to make some sound. A rest simply means you're going to be quiet. You're going to rest. So they're simply telling you in the left hand, be quiet for a whole measure. I'll have to talk about whole rest a little later. A whole rest can represent a whole measure, and that's really what we're doing here. A whole rest is a whole measure. So they're just telling you to be quiet for the whole measure because it's a rule in music. Every measure has to have a certain number of beats in it according to the time signature. The time signature of those numbers, the 4/4, and it's saying that every measure has to have 4 beats in it, 4 counts in it. That's what the top number is. That's what it means. So we have to account for that. A lot of method books I've noticed, because I've covered a lot of them, when they first begin teaching, they don't give you the rest. So they leave the measure empty. Well, if it's empty, you're not going to do anything anyway, so it's okay. Now at the end of the first line, with the right hand is played, it's the end of the second line too. It's the end of both lines. Isn't that something? That little circle there, that's called a whole note, and it is supposed to be an empty circle. Again, they put the name of the note inside it, but it's supposed to be an empty circle. It's a whole note. It is the same as 4 quarter notes. You see a pattern to the values, they keep doubling each time. A quarter note, then a half note is 2 of those, a whole note is 2 of those, and we can actually get a little more, but there's no point. There's a way to represent the equivalent of 2 whole notes. We won't go into that. And then you can have them too, where you can get a half a note or a quarter of a note or an eighth of a note. It just, if you're into computers, you're going to love it because it kind of matches up. So that's a whole note. It gets 4 counts. You're going to hold it down for 4 beats. It's the same as 4 quarter notes. And it's actually the same as a whole rest. A whole rest can get 4 counts too, but a whole rest can also represent a whole measure. So a whole rest gets double duty. Isn't that fun? Let's go through this. You see the repeat sign at the end of the second line, meaning we're going to play this twice, because we're going to repeat. And again, the right hand is playing the top line here, the thumb's here, and the left hand is playing the bottom line with the C in here, so we're still in C position. 4/4 time, And that's about all I have to point out here is a short video, huh? Anyway, let's try this out slowly together so you can have a chance to check your notes and rhythms. And then once you have it, you're comfortable with it, then you can speed it up if you want, because they don't tell you how fast to go. So it's really up to you how fast you want to go, or up to your teacher if you have one, they'll tell you. So go ahead and put your hands in C position here. I'll give us 4 counts. Let's play it together. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Repeat. 1, 2. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Isn't this fun? Oh boy. 1, 2, 3.